The Utah State Legislature is considering restricting cell phones in schools.
And we're holding on to these strong winds in preparation of our next cool front. How will it impact your weekend plans? I'll let you know.
The historic Fifth Ward building in Salt Lake City has a new owner. So now what's the plan?
I mean, there's no staying in shape for a marathon if you're not an avid runner, which I'm not.
Plus, a Provo man is training for the race of his life. We'll explain his noble purpose. And is there a ghost bus in the avenues? Why some Salt Lake residents are concerned about one UTA route.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News Live at 5 starts now.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Kelly Chapman. Bob has the night off. Your elected lawmakers are taking a closer look at cell phones in the classroom, and restrictions could be coming. Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow is in West Jordan with the exclusive story.
The Utah State Legislature will consider a bill that could be anything from restrictions on when kids can use their phones to an all-out ban. At Red Mountain Elementary in Ivins, kids can bring cell phones to school.
But they have to stay in their backpacks, turned off, and then they have access to them before and after school. That's what parents' biggest concern is, that they can contact them before and after school.
This is a good refresher.
Across Utah, schools have different policies, and enforcing it is difficult.
But I think it's important to keep them put away so they're not a distraction.
The Utah State Legislature will soon consider restrictions on phones in classrooms.
When I was a teacher, it was not an issue at all.
Senator Lincoln Fillmore confirms to me he is running a bill that puts some level of restriction on cell phone use in schools.
We don't let kids bring, when I was a kid, what would be called Game Boys. We don't let them bring Game Boys to school or Nintendo Switches or little movie screens, except that we do, because now they're just all part of a phone. And it's causing a problem in schools, so yeah, we're really looking seriously about what we need to do to make sure that cell phones aren't a distraction in school, that interrupt learning, and that harm kids' mental health.
Details of the legislation is still being worked out, so it's unclear right now how far it goes, from an outright ban to restrictions on when they can be used. Lawmakers have tried in the past to enact restrictions, but they've failed after pushback from some parents who worry about contacting their kid in an emergency.
There's going to be wide latitude for schools, but we're certainly going to make a statement that cell phones cannot disrupt learning.
Parents I spoke with were largely supportive of restrictions.
When they come to school, they should focus on educations and not like using phones. So yes, I believe they should put some restrictions on phone, except calling parents or emergency, something like that.
I think they're too big of a distraction for the kids in class, and they're distracted enough at home. They don't need it at school. So to ask a kid to turn it off during class, they're still allowed to do it in between classes, I don't think is a big deal. And the idea that they would have it on during class is pretty disrespectful anyway.
More details on the bill will be released next week. The legislature itself won't consider the bill until they begin meeting in January. In West Jordan, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Hope you're having a great Friday, everyone. The weekend's kind of blowing in here on all of us, Breck.
That's an understatement. Yeah, these winds strong here throughout the state. We've been seeing wind gusts upwards of 50, 55 miles per hour, and we're seeing the rain and thunderstorms. So it's a 1-2 punch here. We're giving you a view, UDOT traffic camera in Bryce Canyon, a little thunderhead rolling through that area, bringing the rain, bringing the winds and some lightning. We've had some intense thunderstorms tracking through south central into southeastern Utah, and we've been looking at flash flood warnings in effect. As you can see, these red boxes just east of Escalante. And then we're looking at this line of thunderstorms, very impressive, where you've got this orange box here. That's a severe thunderstorm warning in effect. It's just southeast of Hanksville, so making your way on the roadway on the Lake Powell, that's definitely a spot where we can see some heavy rain. Also looking at some flash flooding as we look off at just portions of Garfield County heading over to San Juan there. And now as we take a look at these thunderstorms tracking in, pushing upwards towards Arches National Park along I-70 between Green River and Grand Junction. Really here across northern Utah, a few isolated showers and some thunderstorms mainly coming through Utah County, heading up to Wasatch and Summit County, then tracking over towards southwest Wyoming. Really not much of the rest of the Wasatch Front getting much action here throughout the afternoon, except extreme northern Utah. We've been looking at a few isolated thunderstorms making their move through Logan Canyon, Bear Lake, and then again pushing through towards southeast Idaho. But the winds, that's been a focus here. You can see looking at at some of the wind gusts here over the past half hour or so, upwards of 50 miles per hour, especially as we look towards the western desert up through Tooele County. All those south winds ahead of that cool front that we're going to be talking about. But looking at temperatures, still close to average, at least at this point where we don't have the clouds and the rain. Where we do, we're seeing those cooler temperatures like in Hanksville, Moab as well. Price your current temperature at 74 degrees. So it's going to be a blustery rest of the afternoon into the early evening hours. Winds taper off just a bit. It won't be as strong in the overnight. It will be clear, though, as overnight lows dipping down into the upper 60s. But the winds return, strengthening as we get ready for the arrival of that cool front. What will that front bring? I'll let you know coming up in just a bit.
Thank you so much, Breck. Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill announced charges against 2 men for their alleged role in the murder of a 17-year-old in a West Valley City Winco parking lot last month. Investigators say Mayor Beal and Bevan Kouajian were in a car and followed a group in another car into the parking lot where Beal fired multiple shots, killing the 17-year-old. After the shooting, the DA says the defendants fled to Omaha, Nebraska, where they were recently found and arrested.
They're both being charged for murder and for, which is a first-degree felony. Felony discharge from a firearm resulting in serious bodily injury, a second-degree felony. Obstruction of justice, a second-degree felony. And then 8 other counts of a felony discharge from a firearm as third-degree felonies.
The 2 suspects will be extradited from Nebraska before their first appearance in court here in Utah. Today, Sim Gill also filed murder charges against 3 people allegedly connected to that deadly shooting at the Mount Olympus trailhead back on August 3rd. 20-year-old Mateo Martinez and 19-year-old Alex Ruiz Martinez both face first-degree murder charges. An unnamed 15-year-old boy has been charged in juvenile court. As we have previously reported, all 3 are documented gang members. Fox 13 News has received a statement from the family of the 5-year-old boy who died in an accidental shooting in Santaquin yesterday afternoon. It says in part, quote, "We extend our heartfelt gratitude to those who responded and to the community for their overwhelming support and compassion. This heartbreaking incident has taught us difficult lessons, and we deeply regret that it unfolded this way. Our hearts are shattered, and we hope that our family's loss serves as a poignant reminder of how quickly life can change. We hope this tragedy serves as a reminder for others to take every precaution to ensure the safety of their children." If you live in Salt Lake City and recently received a letter about lead in your water, Public Utilities wants you to know it's not an emergency. They say they sent a letter to residents to advise them of work being done to restore the lines that did have lead. It's an ongoing project to remove old lines and identify what is in those pipes.
There's a lot more regulations that have come out, and one of those regulations are for water districts to identify all service lines within their district. We're doing this through a lot of methods, inspections, surveys, but we're required by that rule to notify people that we don't know what their private service line is, to send them a letter saying, hey, we don't know what your material is, but we want to know, because if it's lead, we want to give you resources to fix it. And if it's not lead, we want to kind of get it off our list.
Out of the 90,000 water lines in the city, less than 100 of them had lead.
I think while having a huge women's soccer league is important, I think it's also important to treat those players how they should be treated.
No more drafts in the National Women's Soccer League and a big pay raise. I'm Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gobi. As the Utah Royals kick off their season, there's a new contract in place that could help raise the playing field for women in this sport.
Let's do like a few more, I guess. Since I was little, when people asked me what I wanted to do with my life, I said play professional soccer.
Katie O'Kane plays soccer at the University of Utah.
I like how it's an aggressive sport and you can kind of like put everything you have onto the field.
And now she feels like her dream of playing professional soccer might be a little closer after the National Women's Soccer League and the Players Association have come to an agreement that would nearly double players' minimum annual salaries to about $82,000 by 2030. It would also remove drafts so players have to consent to the team they go to, more parental, childcare, and mental health benefits, and creating a year-round schedule.
When I was younger, it was like, oh yeah, like pursue your goal, try to play professional soccer, but you might need a side job. And it's like, I mean, as I'm sure the players in the NWSL know, even in college, it's hard to have a side job because this takes up 99% of our time. So being able to go do what you love doing while knowing that you're actually being supported for it financially and in other ways is huge.
Hoping that this is only the beginning of investing in women's sports.
And I think it's important to shine a light on like how hard we work and how important this is to us personally and like as a community.
In Salt Lake City, I am Maitili Gubi, Fox 13 News, Utah.
He's got the most famous last name in American politics. Find out why he's now out of the race for president. But this man is in the race, a marathon, to be precise, for one of the best reasons you've ever heard.
Eiffel Tower isn't in Paris, and it's made of diapers. I'll show you how it's going to help Utahns in need.
In national news, with the presidential ticket set, the race to Election Day now just 73 days away, and the campaigns are shifting to a new gear. Today, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced he was suspending his campaign.
Oh, I want everyone to know that I am not terminating my campaign. I am simply suspending it and not ending it. My name will remain on the ballot in most states. If you live in a blue state, you can vote for me without harming or helping President Trump or Vice President Harris. In red states, the same will apply. In about 10 battleground states where my presence would be a spoiler, I'm going to remove my name.
Kennedy did back former President Trump, who was in Las Vegas today.
To help seniors, we will have no tax on Social Security benefits. That's a big deal. I don't know. I'm trying to figure for restaurant workers, and all workers, tip workers, it's no tax on tips, but the Social Security, no tax, because they've driven them out of business. These people have suffered, and they've done things the right way. They've saved, and then the inflation destroyed them. And we're going to have no tax on Social Security benefits, and that's a big thing, and it's very important. Just as important as what I said before about the no tax on tips.
Well, the next big event for the campaigns is the ABC presidential debate that will take place on September 10th. Voters in 6 states will be able to post their ballots starting next month. Then on October 1st, Senator J.D. Vance and Governor Tim Walz will meet in a debate hosted by CBS. 9 more states start early voting the week after.
It's as much mental as it is physical, so it's definitely been kicking my butt.
I'm Mark Blaine at the track at Old Provo High School, where a local man is training for the Chicago Marathon on October 13th in order to help save his father's life. The thing is, time is not on his side. 31-year-old Kyle LaPlante, who had never run more than 5 miles, is banking on becoming a quick learner for a good cause. He decided in early July he would run in his hometown marathon to be in tip-top shape to donate a kidney to his father Jimmy, who has stage 4 chronic kidney disease. If you do the math, Kyle will be able to only log 14 weeks of training leading up to race day.
I've tried to stay in shape the best I can in general, but I mean, there's no staying in shape for a marathon if you're not an avid runner, which I'm not.
Obviously unable to cover 26.2 miles in under 2 hours 50 minutes to qualify for the Chicago Marathon, Kyle gained entry as a member of the American Red Cross team, which happened to have an unexpected opening the day Kyle called. When Kyle's dad, whose health took a turn for the worse due to COVID complications 3 years ago, learned what his son was up to, Kyle says his dad gave him a taste of reality.
He reminded me that, people take years to train for marathons, and for me to do that within 2 to 3 months time frame was a little on the crazy side.
Since Kyle admits he's never really been into running, you have to wonder if his crash course workout regimen will prevent him from running out of gas in Chicago. Kyle, what do you think?
I fully intend on finishing and doing so without having to take a break. I definitely want to keep a pace, a 10-minute pace per mile. of jogging, which I feel like is a great goal for me.
Kyle has also set a goal of raising $5,000 via GoFundMe to cover his entry fee and to help with his dad's medical costs. And with race day just a little over 7 weeks away, he's looking forward to making it family day.
You know, my father is going to be there on race day, my mother, my wife and son, family. So I feel like with them being there and their support, I think I can do it. I think I can get this done.
Mark Blaine, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Good for him. I always feel inspired when I see other people out exercising, especially, you know, for a good cause and a reason.
Right.
And the weather we're having today into this weekend, now's the time to exercise outside.
Yeah. More impressive in this situation. Yeah, the winds, the rain, we've been dealing with it all. We've been talking about these strong winds picking up ahead of a cool front that's going to really drop temperatures here, especially as we go from Saturday to Sunday. Today, though, once again, we've been looking at these afternoon thunderstorms, these pesky thunderstorms producing the heavy precipitation. We've got a few areas under flash flood warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings, particularly one area like near Canyonlands, as we're seeing that action going on right now through Arches, Canyonlands, down through southeastern Utah and a little further west. Now here across northern Utah, it's been an okay afternoon, definitely blustery though. Look at these winds here along the Wasatch Front, sustained anywhere between 15 to 25 miles per hour, but we've been looking at some strong wind gusts. Several locations, both across extreme northern and western Utah, seeing wind gusts upwards of 60 miles per hour. And that's definitely going to be a concern right now as we take a look at wind gusts. The strongest wind gusts are towards Tooele County, down through the western desert, so west central Utah, even portions of Box Elder County. But here along the Wasatch Front, we have been seeing wind gusts upwards of 30 to 40 miles per hour. With the winds, and for northern western Utah, because the humidity levels are so low, that red flag warning will remain in effect, because even though winds will die off just a bit in the overnight hours, they'll be picking up once again for tomorrow before that front hits, which the timing of the front now looks like it'll be coming in late afternoon through the early evening hours. In other locations, Box Elder, Tooele County, we're going to have some stronger wind gusts again for tomorrow. High wind warning will be in effect until tomorrow evening at 10 p.m., where again we could be looking at wind gusts up to 60 miles per hour. But the wind forecast, looking ahead, moving the clock again in the overnight hours, things calm down just a little bit, but it's still breezy here across portions of northern Utah through Tooele. Tomorrow afternoon, boom, there you go again. You're seeing that purple. That's pushing wind gusts upwards of 50 miles per hour. And again, some stronger wind gusts, Box Elder, Tooele County. Now, as the front moves in tomorrow early evening, it looks like the flow changing out of the north. This is going to allow some cooler air to track in. We'll get some brief strong winds near the front. And then as we look further towards the east ahead of the front on Sunday, that's where we're going to be looking at some strong winds as well. So potentially we could be still holding on to some wind advisories across eastern Utah for Sunday. Now, for today, we knew we were going to get the rain and those scattered thunderstorms. It's still a focus here, mainly across eastern Utah. But as we're seeing in some areas, it's a big concern right now. Now, for tomorrow, the forecast saying, hey, for eastern Utah, we could be holding on to a chance of a few isolated showers. That's where we're finding, again, those intense thunderstorms that have really been tracking through. Near Escalante, heading up north near Hanksville, that's been a zone where we've had severe thunderstorm warnings and again some flash flooding as those flash flood warnings in effect still. And then moving over towards Arches National Park just north of Blanding, Monticello, you've been looking at severe thunderstorms moving through your area and then tracking along I-70 between Grand Junction, or excuse me, between Green River and Grand Junction. But right here along the Wasatch Front, not much going on. We've just seen a few isolated thunderstorms moving through Utah County, but then pushing up through Wasatch County and then over towards southwest Wyoming. But for tonight, the focus is mainly across eastern Utah, incorporating the Uinta Basin down through Moab, and then that pushes on. But again, across eastern Utah, we'll keep that threat going tomorrow afternoon. Northern, western Utah, you're staying dry. Here's the approaching cool front. It sweeps in. It doesn't have a lot of moisture with it. Yes, could it produce maybe some light rain showers, but it's not going to have much of an impact. Sunday, though, we can maybe look towards the northern Wasatch Front as seeing a few isolated showers. But for most of the state, you're staying dry with this cool front. You'll just have the strong winds ahead of it. And then we've got some cooler temperatures on tap for Sunday. Sunday, it's just unbelievable the weather we're going to see across the state. It's just perfect temperature range, and you got the sunshine sunshine, I should say, and the winds will be dying down. Now for tonight, there's that threat of an isolated thunderstorm. Tomorrow, we've got the winds mainly for northern, central, western Utah, maybe a few isolated showers across eastern Utah. Temperatures cooling off just a little bit, but the bigger temperature drop hits on Sunday as we go from low 90s to 91 degrees on Sunday for St. George. So not much of a temperature drop there. Bigger impact across northern and central Utah, but we see an increase in temperatures as we go towards the middle of next week. Northern Utah, there you go, upper 80s to mid 70s. So on Sunday, it's going to be mostly sunny skies. Winds will be fairly calm, mid 70s, then back into the low 80s Monday. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, returning close to 90 degrees as we're going to be dry next week. So we don't see much threat of rain, but for tomorrow, get ready for the winds.
Thanks for the heads up, Breck. Are we about to get a break from high interest rates? What the head of the Fed had to say about when they might cut rates. We'll be right back. Glad you're with us this evening, everyone. In Fox 13 News Money Watch, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell hinted he may say it's time to drop interest rates. Powell spoke at the 2024 Jackson Hole Economic Symposium this morning. He said with inflation nearly under control and the job market cooling, it may be time to start cutting its key interest rate, which is currently at a 23-year high.
4.5 years after COVID-19's arrival, the worst of the pandemic-related economic distortions are fading. Inflation has declined significantly. The labor market is no longer overheated, and conditions are now less tight than those that prevailed before the pandemic.
Here's the thing, though. Powell did not say when rates would begin the cuts, but the Federal Reserve is widely expected to announce a modest cut in its benchmark rate during its mid-September meeting. Today on Fox 13 News at 4, Fox 13 News anchor Max Roth caught up with Gary Gygi. He's a financial advisor for Gygi Capital Management. He talked about what Jerome's comments mean for you.
So a drop in interest rates is positive for so many things. So if you're in the equity market, the stock market, that's generally a tailwind for people that are investing in equities, makes companies more profitable, particularly if they have to go to the markets to borrow. But also, let's say that you are in the real estate market, or you're wanting to be in the real estate market. Then all of a sudden mortgage rates have come down, and it makes getting into a home easier for people to do that.
Well, take a look. Stocks, they rose today after Powell's announcement. The Dow closed more than 450 points higher. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ both gained more than a percentage point. We have an update coming up on the former Ward building that was partially demolished earlier this year. Will it be rising from the rubble? We've got some answers. And when you see diapers, you probably think of only one thing they're used for, but just wait until you see how they were on display in a parking lot today. Also, how one girl is turning her school's pickup line into profit time.
The Fifth Ward building that was the site of an unauthorized demolition earlier this year has a new owner. He's not discussing his plans yet. I'm Fox 13 investigative reporter Nate Carlisle, just south of Salt Lake City's downtown. On Easter, passers-by found a contractor demolishing the former Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints meeting house. City staff put a stop to it since the permits hadn't been issued, and the building on 300 West between 700 and 800 South is historic.
So it's been a problem for a while. It doesn't get used for anything, and it's ugly.
Shanna Coe's family owns a nearby print shop.
I'd prefer they tear it down, but I'm not a historian.
Records show Fifth Ward was purchased in July by a nonprofit called Salt of the Earth. It's operated by Skylar Baird. In a phone call Thursday with Fox 13, Baird said he wasn't ready for an interview yet, but wants to restore Fifth Ward to, quote, its former glory, end quote, and has a meeting next week with Salt Lake City officials. Salt of the Earth's website says one of its missions is affordable housing, and its guiding principles include those taught by Marcus Aurelius, Thomas Paine, and Jesus Christ.
We would love to see that the partially demolished portion of the building is restored.
Brandy Strand is the executive director of Preservation Utah. a nonprofit.
We have a revolving low interest loan program that we could help out with. We also are really connected with our local preservationists. Once we tear down our historic buildings, we cannot get that history back.
Meanwhile, it's not clear what's become of the fines of $300 a day that had been accumulating against the previous owner. They were to continue at least until that owner reached a restoration plan with the city. A Salt Lake City spokesman on Friday declined to give the current tally of those fines.
Don't leave it like this, that's for sure. If they restore it, fine. But what's it going to be used for when it's restored?
A search of Salt Lake City's website didn't reveal any recent building or demolition permit applications for Fifth Ward. In Salt Lake City, Nate Carlisle, Fox 13 News, Utah.
In Sandy, a man is hospitalized in critical condition after he was hit by 2 cars overnight. It happened near 90th South and State Street around 1:30 this morning. Police say the man was wearing dark clothing and was hit. The driver stopped to help and called 911. That's when a second car hit the man. That driver stopped as well. In Summit County, a man is hospitalized after a rollover crash on I-80 early this morning. It happened near mile marker 179, which you can see is between Colville and Evanston. According to Utah Highway Patrol, the driver was going eastbound on the interstate when they lost control, crashed into the median, and ended up being ejected from the car. UHP does not know the victim's exact condition. The Salt Lake City Police Department is celebrating social workers on their community connection team. Over the past 30 days, they say they've focused on connecting people who are experiencing homelessness to community resources. They say they contacted more than 90 people, and they were able to share information on food bank locations, substance abuse programs, housing, and other essential services.
It really is a way for the community to come together and make a difference in the lives of kids here in the state of Utah.
I'm Fox 13 News reporter Darian DeBrule in Draper. The IKEA parking lot was full this morning, but people weren't furniture shopping. They were building things like this. The drills are out, the wood is up, and the builders are at work. But these homes aren't being made with brick and stucco. They're made with thousands of dollars worth of diapers?
Our architects, our designers put it all together. They measure all the boxes, they count how many boxes, and we start from there. And then once we have it all designed, we start building.
Friday morning, 10 home builders came to IKEA in Draper to participate in Homemade Utah's 2024 diaper drive, where builders used box diapers to build at least 80% of their designs.
This is the one event that every year I kind of just stand over in the corner at some point and just look at it and say, this is amazing.
Every builder brought their A game.
We went with the circus theme this year because, again, trying to really make it entertaining for the families that are going to be coming through. So we have a magician coming later, we have a clown that's coming.
The idea was we want to build a house, and we came up with the idea to build SpongeBob's house.
Some even brought the Olympic Games. But as fun as the diaper building event may be, participants are doing this for a much bigger cause. According to the National Diaper Bank Network's Diaper Check 2023, 1 in 2 U.S. families can't afford enough diapers.
We are making a difference in the lives of parents. You know, I've had so many parents say to me, my kid finally got out of diapers, which means I got a raise.
Following the event, the diaper boxes are donated to the Utah Diaper Bank, where they distribute them to low-income families across the state through places like the food bank and local shelters.
We do it because nobody else does. There's no safety net program that covers diapers.
Victor Valavis is the founder and executive director of the Utah Diaper Bank. He says they plan to distribute 1.9 million diapers to local communities this year.
Every baby deserves a clean diaper. You know, it prevents diaper rash by being able to change diapers when they need to. They can, now use nursery and daycare.
At this year's diaper drive, Homemade in Utah hopes to collect 1 million diapers to help Utah families. And executive director Brian Diggs says it doesn't stop here.
We would love to be able to support the diaper bank so they don't have to go out and raise money, collect diapers. Homemade does it all for them. They just do the great work of distributing those diapers.
If you missed out on today's event, you can still help by donating to the Utah Diaper Bank. You can learn more by visiting utahdiaperbank.org. In Draper, Darian DeBrule, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Many parents probably know the pain of the after-school pickup line, but one kindergartner in Springville is trying to make it better while drivers wait. She's a smart little kindergartner. Z decided she wanted to make some money for a pass to Corn Bellies, so her mom gave her two options: do chores or set up a lemonade stand.
Pickup lines up in front of my street, so I thought about, I'm a mom, so I thought about, oh, maybe like moms would like their Diet Coke and iced coffee.
They'll come over and I will give them lemonade and they'll give me money.
All right, it's working. Good business plan here. The young barista says her favorite customer, of course, is her mom. You can catch a bus in the Avenues nearly 21 hours a day, but some residents say there's a problem with that because no one is on board. Fox 13 News looks into it when we come back.
And the winds continue to howl, all in preparation of a storm and a cool front that's going to be marching through for the weekend. How will it impact your weekend plans? We'll answer that coming up after the break.
And later in sports, hear from RSL along with former Ute Britton Covey as he and the Eagles lace up again tomorrow, plus a glance back to last night's mammoth upset on the high school scene. Corner Canyon finally getting that marquee upset that should soon catapult the Chargers up into elite territory. Back in a bit.
Well, tonight, Frisbees will be flying high at Zions Bank Stadium in Harriman for the Ultimate Frisbee Association Championship. The Minnesota Wind Chill, DC Breeze, Carolina Flyers, and Seattle Cascades will be competing for the title. Now, the Salt Lake Shred lost out to the Cascades in the regional tournament. The semifinal is happening at 7:30 tonight. The championship takes place tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Ticket prices vary from $19 to $38. Kids ages 3 and under get in free. Well, today also was a huge day in the art world for artists in St. George. The event allowed art leaders to network, share, also learn about others in the local industry. We spoke with Chris Barber, who won the Excellence in Art Award.
It's magic for me. It's the best that our society has to offer, is when we lift ourselves out of our normal work life and we embrace the different forms of the arts.
Well, if you missed today's event, it is annual, so you can check it out next year. Artists also at the Day Barn in Draper. Look at how cool this is. This is the 5th annual art show hosted by the Draper Visual Arts Foundation, showcasing the work of local artisans for all to enjoy and even take home.
We have about 55 artists here this year, up from 40 last year. And 2 years ago, we probably had, this began probably with 20 artists at the most. This just keeps growing.
Oh, I bet there's some really fantastic pieces there. The event continues through the weekend. Just stop by the barn tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. and that's in Draper. There are a lot of other really fun events planned for this weekend, including the Apple Days celebration, Fruit Heights Founders Day celebration, the Dragon Boat Festival, Bryan Head Resort Country Music Fest, and much, much more. Just scan that QR code on your screen to go to our weekend events page on fox13now.com. Well, take a look at this, a map of all Utah Transit Authority tracks, front runners, and bus routes. Now, in total, UTA's buses serve more than 120 routes across 1,400 miles with 6,140 bus stops in total. But some residents in the Avenues are voicing their concerns over one of those bus routes. Fox 13 News digital reporter Shanti Lerner takes us on Route 209.
We call it the ghost bus because the 209 comes up the street and usually it's empty.
It's eerie. It's really eerie.
So if you look right now, there's usually not very many people.
Here's another bus.
Roan Tempest's family has lived in the Avenues for 5 generations.
When these city streets were laid out by my ancestors in the mid-19th century, they didn't anticipate cars or buses or anything.
But he says those buses are changing things.
So there's noise, there's vibration.
Tempest and others have raised concerns over UTA bus route 209. It runs between downtown and Fashion Place in Murray. It also runs through about 2 miles of the avenues. The buses run before dawn at 4 a.m. and until 1 a.m. People say the bus brings noise, pollution, and road damage. It's a route extended into the steep hills east of downtown after UTA canceled 2 routes in 2022.
That eliminated a connection with the university where a lot of people work. And the other thing they did is they made this a very high frequency route.
To residents, the bus comes every 15 minutes going south and roughly 8 minutes going north. But while the bus comes often, residents believe there aren't enough passengers to justify its size, and what they say is the struggle it endures to get up the steep roads.
Our oldest son is on the autism spectrum, and he has supersonic hearing. So for him, the quality of life has changed a bit also.
According to UTA, the 4 stops from 3rd Avenue to 9th Avenue along L Street and into I Street saw an average number of 5.5 riders per day in July, with those numbers varying throughout the year.
If there's truly nobody there, that goes back to the supply and demand. If there's no demand, then the supply will change. As of right now, there's still demand for the service at these individual stops.
I actually rode the bus myself 4 times. During those specific rides, I only encountered 1 passenger, but UTA says in areas like Sugar House or Fashion Place, that's when ridership picks up.
Sure, there's always going to be parts of any route that are going to have a little bit lower and a little bit higher, but overall that route is in the top 10 in popularity over the past 2 years in the entire UTA system.
It feels to me like the wrong solution to the transportation problem.
So residents aren't asking UTA to stop the route completely, but rather they're asking for perhaps a change in equipment, maybe a smaller van or a smaller bus. UTA says they are always evaluating routes and the needs of the community, but Gustafson says any resident can address their concerns with the city and UTA's customer service line. For now,
there's nothing sadder than an empty bus.
Tempest will keep watching the 209 drive past, hoping for quieter days ahead. Shanti Lerner, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Valid points there. The ghost bus, that kind of puts me in a mood, Breck. You know, have you ever seen that? It pops up a lot on Instagram. People who love the Burr months, September, October, November, December, and we are inching toward that, and the weather is really matching it.
You got your pumpkin spice latte today, didn't you?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I have been burning a pumpkin fall candle at home, so.
Well, apropos here, I think for the weekend where temperatures are going, I mentioned to you that on Sunday it will feel more fall-like, where temperatures here along the Wasatch Front will be dropping down into the mid-70s. Yeah, these are temperatures that we typically experience the first week of October, so a nice cooling off here across the state, well, especially across northern Utah. We'll get a little temperature drop in St. George. Right now, it's just the winds. Across the state, looking at those winds currently in St. George, sustained at 32 miles per hour. Some stronger wind gusts here in Salt Lake City. As we're seeing that southerly flow, again, a good indication of an approaching cool front. It gets here come tomorrow, late afternoon through the evening, but the winds have been howling. Just to give you an update where we've been seeing some of the stronger wind gusts. You can see Richmond coming in with the wind gusts of 63 miles per hour. Off towards Tooele County, you look in Vernon, it looks like winds upwards of 60 miles per hour. And we do have red flag warnings that'll remain in effect throughout northern, west central, southwestern Utah heading into tomorrow. Some stronger wind gusts potentially as we look for Box Elder, Tooele County. We've issued a high wind warning, I should say the National Weather Service has, where we could be potentially looking at wind gusts like we saw today into the 60 mile per hour range. Now, we've been seeing the showers and thunderstorms across south central, southeastern, northeastern Utah. For tomorrow, looks like potentially extreme eastern Utah could be looking at a few isolated thunderstorms, but we're pushing away that monsoon moisture with that approaching cool front. It's kind of turning off that monsoon flow. But it's going to be active still here as we look for the rest of the evening, where we can take a look across portions of south central towards southeastern Utah. We've been looking at a line of thunderstorms making its move through Escalante, a little bit further east. Near Hanksville, we've been looking at some thunderstorms where we've got several locations still under flash flood warnings, as this activity will continue on, as I mentioned here, throughout most of the early evening hours. Even looking at this thunderstorm potentially could be impacting Moab up through Arches, then heading over towards Grand Junction. Now here across northern Utah, we've been seeing a few isolated isolated thunderstorms still tracking through Utah County, mainly moving up towards Wasatch and then into Duchesne County across southwest Wyoming. So a few isolated showers mainly over the Wasatch back here across northern Utah, but we'll keep the active weather going through eastern Utah. With this front, it doesn't pack a lot of precipitation here throughout the state. So as we look here for tonight, we'll see that focus of the rain across eastern Utah. Tomorrow, as we go through the afternoon, a little bit of action here across eastern Utah, but northern Utah, Wasatch Front, most of western Utah, St. George, you're staying dry. When the front hits and behind it on Sunday, we could see a few showers here for the northern Wasatch Front, but again, central Wasatch Front through central and southwestern Utah. Looks like you're staying dry throughout the weekend and keeping it dry heading into next week. So this front is actually kind of pushing away the moisture and that threat of rain, but there's a slight chance of an isolated shower or thunderstorm here along the Wasatch Front, but I'm leaning mainly towards Utah County and then tracking over towards the Wasatch back. Now here for tomorrow, temperatures look to be a little bit cooler. You've got the winds though. It's going to be another blustery day, kicking up some dust. It's not going to be good until that front passes through come tomorrow morning in the early evening hours. Now for St. George, you've got the winds tomorrow, a little calmer. I should say Sunday, you're dropping down to the low 90s. Then it's going to be sunny and toasty, back to upper 90s by Tuesday and Wednesday. Northern Utah will have a few clouds and some winds tomorrow. Sunday, it's going to be calm and cool, mid 70s. Then we've got 80s returning, even 90s by the middle of next week. Really, there's not a big threat of any rain heading towards next week. Will be dry, but enjoy Sunday, feeling a little bit more fall-like.
Last night at Charger Stadium could very well be the biggest upset in the history of Utah high school football. Corner Canyon wasn't a nobody, ranked 18th in the country according to MaxPreps, but to take down a school routinely in the top 5, I'm talking about Florida's IMG Academy, one of the premier prep destinations and boarding schools anywhere, well, that's a statement win. If you were not there, here's how it went down. Corner trailed 28-14 at the half, only to reel off 21 unanswered in half 2. 5-star receiver Jerome Miles, 3 touchdowns, including that one for the lead with less than 5 minutes left. The Ascenders responded with a touchdown, but instead of kicking for the PAT for the tie, they played for the win on the road and were denied. Brock White on the game-saving conversion tackle to preserve the 35-34 upset. Yeah, we'll see if anybody can top that tonight. Here are some of the games we're working on for week 2, including Lone Peak visiting the defending 5A champs Timpview, and in Davis County, it's the battle for Layton with Northridge on the road at the Lancers. The NFL preseason wraps up over the weekend, including Jaron Hall's Vikings taking on Britton Covey and the Eagles. The 2 Utah County natives have had their moments this month, including Covey expanding his role in Philly beyond a punt returner. He's been getting reps at receiver as well, where he says his 5'8" frame has actually worked to his advantage.
My size, you can't rely on contested catches, jumping up over the top of people. You got to get separation. So I strive to get separation all the time, man zone, whatever it is. And in the slot, I feel like you got a two-way go at all times, and you can be a mismatch. So I don't view like being small as a disadvantage. You almost view it as an advantage. I feel so confident that I can do it, and I've done it all throughout my entire career in practice. You just haven't gotten many opportunities in a game.
Former Desert Hills High product Penei Sewell, who is widely regarded as the best offensive lineman in the National Football League, had a scare this week, leaving practice with a foot injury. Test results, though, came back positive as Sewell rolled an ankle. No word on whether he'll be ready for the Lions season opener on September 8th. Tomorrow night at America First Field, RSL will play an MLS game for the first time in 35 days. Since then, the club has lost their second most dynamic player, with Andreas Gomez transferred to Europe, while adding pieces like Dominic Marchuk and Lachlan Brook to fill that massive hole.
Players that are coming in have to really get a hold of the big picture of who we are, what we're trying to achieve. It's not just plug and play, although, I think they have the quality to do that. But I think it's being cognizant of the work that's been done prior to their arrival and taking that big picture perspective. And more players is more competition. And I want to put a team that's going to be the best to compete at the weekend. And we'll do that for the next 9 weekends.
Yeah, so RSL tomorrow. The Royals play tonight as well, along with all that high school football.
They'll have some weather, some wind blowing the ball around.
There we go. That
you better get on the road. You've got a lot of high school football to catch tonight.
Always driving involved.
Highlights tonight
Sometimes
at 9.
Fast driving.
Be careful out there. We'll be right back.
Coach Bolton has something to say to all the high school teams out there.
Football with the Winds, running game. Short passes, that's it.
Old
no
school.
long bomb.
It could be the key to the
That's
championship
right.
tonight.
Listen to me.
See you back here tonight at 9.